Hey there. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday. I'm Veronica Cruz. It is always great to see you. Here are the top stories that we're tracking for you right now.
In Tampa, they are filling those sandbags.
We need to prepare for a major Category 3 hurricane to hit the Bay Area.
It's better to be prepared versus not prepared and have regrets.
Trying to regroup after Ian, and now it's almost makes me want to move out of Florida, but I'm not.
Florida, the state, and its people condemn the horrific racially motivated murders perpetrated by a deranged scumbag in Jacksonville at the Dollar General store.
I'm going to give credit to our sheriff, Sheriff Waters, for calling this what it was, a racist attack.
There's no question about it. He hated blacks, and I think he hated just about everyone that wasn't white. He made that very clear.
Developing drugs for brain cancer patients is an uphill battle.
Heather Neese will never forget the start of her brain cancer journey.
I am better than I could ever be.
Hey there. Welcome to Scripps News Live. We begin this hour with a busy legal calendar for Donald Trump, with both state and federal cases on the agenda pertaining to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. First, a date has been set for the former president's trial in D.C., March 4th, 2024. Lawyers for the former president were back in a D.C. courtroom this morning before federal judge Tanya Chutkan. The trial dates each side proposed were dramatically different. Special counsel Jack Smith submitting a date right after the first of the year, January 2nd, but Trump's team asking for April of 2026. National political correspondent Avajoy Burnett joins us now live from Washington with the details here. So Avajoy, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this March 4th, 2024 date. What is the significance of this date in particular?
Hi, Veronica. Well, good afternoon to you. Well, this is a major development. This is with regards to the January 6th case in which the former president faces 4 charges, and this will be the official kickoff for any of his trials. This one on the 4th of March of next year will be the first case that will actually go to trial, barring any significant changes. Remember, there's one in New York that was already scheduled for the 25th, and the case down in Georgia, the Fulton County case, that one actually has a proposed timeline of March of next year, but that's just a proposal at this point. And then one more case that we have to keep an eye on is that classified documents case in Florida. So this one here today, it is a major update. Attorneys for the former president walked into the courtroom just before 9:30 this morning, and we were able to try to ask them some questions once they left the courtroom. Take a listen. Will you have adequate time to prepare, sir? And that was me asking a question to John Lauro. He's one of the major attorneys for the former president, Donald Trump. He's been very outspoken in the past. In fact, I was able to speak with him here at this courthouse just a few weeks ago, but today's much different. He's not saying much. And this is significant because remember that the legal team for the former president, they requested a trial date in April of 2026. That's 2 years and 7 months from now. The prosecution, Jack Smith's team, they requested a January 2nd, 2024 trial date. So this is a major win for the prosecution, just 2 months off of what they requested. I was able to speak with a former federal prosecutor about this, and he said this should be adequate time for the defense team to prepare. That was one of the arguments that attorneys for the former president made, because there are millions of documents that they have to go through. They made the argument that they would not have enough time, but the judge today ultimately disagreed with the length of time that they initially requested, Veronica.
And Avajoy, as you're reporting today, it really does look busy there at the courthouse. We see what could be a protester behind you. What has the mood been like today? What was it like inside the courtroom?
Inside the courtroom, it was extremely fiery. Our producer, Sam Lisker, he came here early this morning, went in line so that he could have a seat inside. And we've been told that the attorney, John Lauro, that you just saw, he was, I don't want to say combative, but he was very outspoken about the right to be able to have an extended period of time to be able to get everything in order for his client, the former president. But this is something that he really went toe-to-toe with the judge, and the judge, Tanya Chutkan, she really was not having any of it. At one point, she said it doesn't matter what someone's schedule is. This should be the priority. She invoked a professional athlete and saying that she wouldn't really schedule a trial date around their schedule, so why should she do that for others? And so here we have it, a March 4th date, 2024, in just a matter of months, set for this case, the January 6th case in which a former president has been charged 4 times. He's pleaded not guilty. Some of the charges include conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. And so we will be moving forward with this process now. Now we got to get to the next phases here: discovery, motions hearings, jury selection, and all of that. And we'll be getting a schedule for that pretty soon, Veronica.
All right, Avajoy Burnett live for us there in Washington. Avajoy, thank you so much. In Georgia now, at least 5 of the 19 co-defendants charged with trying to overturn the 2020 election results are trying to move their cases from state court to federal court. The first in line, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Arguments made on his behalf were heard this morning at federal court in Atlanta, where the burden of proving why is on the defendant. National political correspondent Alex Miller has been covering the case for us here in Georgia and joins us now live. All right, so Alex, tell us what's happened in court so far. Is the judge likely to agree to this request?
Well, this is going to be the major question, and I think that the case with Mark Meadows is a bellwether for the other people who are trying to get their case moved, who have already filed, but also for the other co-defendants. A lot of people are probably watching in the wings to see how successful Mark Meadows is with his argument, particularly because he really was a federal employee during this time. Not everybody who has filed to have their case moved to federal court was a federal employee over the course of the time period that we're talking about here. Now, the judge, this is a federal case, so there are no cameras or electronic devices in the courtroom, so we're just getting a little bit of a trickling of information out. We do know that Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff to the former president, he has taken the stand in his own defense. This case obviously is not a big trial. This is effectively a mini trial to try to figure out if he should have his case moved there. They say, his lawyers say, that he was acting in his federal capacity, his professional capacity, when he was helping the former president during those days, weeks after the election day. But what Fani Willis, the district attorney's team, says is if you were doing that, you were violating the Hatch Act. And that's basically a law that says that no federal employee can act in a partisan political capacity while they're employed. So if he was acting in his official capacity, she says, you were violating the law anyways. And so not only is Mark Meadows on the stand here, but there are people that Willis's team has called to take the stand, including former Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, former Secretary of State's Chief Investigator Francis Watson, and some other lawyers that are going to get up there and talk about, first of all, what happened, and then the judge will have to make a decision of if that information is enough to move to federal court. Willis's team says this is a pretty low bar, that they have not met the threshold to move it to federal court, but it really is a big question because he's not the only one that is trying to do this. Now, there is a lot more coming down the pike. It's not just these decisions that have to be made. There's also arraignments coming up in just about 2 weeks. We now know what the arraignments will look like for all of the defendants. They will all be arraigned on September 6th from about the hours of 9:30 a.m. The former president goes first, all the way through 3 p.m. So that day, Veronica, is going to be a very busy one.
Yep, we've got to process a lot of people on that day, September 6th. We're going to be looking at that one. I've put it on the calendar. Alex Miller live in New York. Alex, thank you so much. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is saying that his chamber may be launching an impeachment inquiry of President Biden once it returns from recess. Some House Republicans claim the president is involved in claims of financial misconduct connected to his son Hunter, but none of the evidence has surfaced. And even if the House voted for impeachment, it would likely be dead on arrival in the Senate, where Democrats hold a majority. You can find deeper dives on all of these stories and a whole lot more online right now. Feel free to check us out, scripsnews.com, also on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, celebrating the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. The latest reminder that Dr. King's dream remains unrealized as a racist shooting in Florida leaves 3 people dead. Also, preparations begin in the Gulf as Tropical Storm Idalia grows in strength when it's expected to hit the west coast of Florida. And we would like to hear from you. Feel free to give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. The number is toll free. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas with us. We're back after this.
As Americans, there's one thing we can all agree on: the promise of our Constitution and the hope that liberty and justice is for all people. But here's the truth: Attacks on our constitutional rights, yours and mine, are greater than they've ever been. The right for all to vote, reproductive rights, the rights of immigrant families, the right to equal justice for Black, brown, and LGBTQ+ folks. The time to act to protect our rights is now. That's why I'm hoping you'll join me today in supporting the American Civil Liberties Union. It's easy to make a difference. Just call or go online now and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty. All it takes is just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support will make you part of the movement to protect the rights of all people, including the fundamental right to vote.
States are passing laws that would suppress the right to vote. We are going backwards.
But the ACLU can't do this important work without the support of people like you. You can help ensure liberty and justice for all and make sure that every vote is counted. So please, call the ACLU now or go to myaclu.org and join us. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this special We the People t-shirt and much more to show you're a part of the movement to protect the rights guaranteed to all of us by the U.S. Constitution.
We protect everyone's rights. The freedom of religion, the freedom of expression, racial justice, LGBTQ rights, the rights of the disabled. We are here for everyone.
It is more important than ever to take a stand. So please join us today, because we the people means all the people, including you. So call now or go online to myaclu.org to become a Guardian of Liberty.
Hey.
Hey, I'm inside the bank.
What?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app.
What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
When a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name, it's a race against time to stop the theft of your hard-earned equity.
Many people don't know this has happened until long after it's done.
You as the homeowner think you still own a house. 3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
So when's the last time you checked on the title to your home? Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
Today marks 60 years since the March on Washington. It's considered one of the greatest racial justice demonstrations in U.S. history as it sparked the passage of landmark civil rights and voting rights legislation. And it's also where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his most iconic speech. This weekend, thousands of people gathered at the National Mall for the 60th anniversary. Saturday's event featured dozens of speakers who highlighted the inequalities the nation is still facing today. And then afterwards, the crowd marched to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Dr. King's son laid out what he believes the country must do in order to become a great nation.
Dad would probably say, now is the time. We must preserve, protect, and expand democracy. We must ensure that voting rights is protected for all people. We must ensure that our women and children are treated fairly. We must end gun violence. And then, maybe one day we will be a great nation.
Now, unfortunately, the call to end gun violence came the same day 3 people were killed in a racist shooting in Jacksonville, Florida. Police say the 21-year-old gunman left behind manifestos detailing his hatred of black people and carried weapons with swastikas. National correspondent Maura Siriani has the details on the shooting and other acts of gun violence over the weekend.
About 200 people yesterday gathered to mourn the lives of those 3 black people killed in the country's latest attack motivated by hatred. Police say Angela Carr was in her vehicle when she was killed. She had just dropped off a friend at the Dollar General. A.J. Laguerre worked there, and Jared Gallion was killed as he walked inside that store with his girlfriend. Investigators say leading up to the attack, the shooter, a 21-year-old white man, was seen at Edward Waters University. That's a historically black college about a half mile away from that scene. He was reportedly putting on tactical gear there and gearing up. The surveillance video shows the moment the suspect entered the store wearing a mask and carrying a weapon. Jacksonville Sheriff TK Waters said the suspect used an AR-15 and a Glock handgun. Photos released by the sheriff's office show at least one of those weapons had a swastika painted on it. Sheriff Waters said the shooter made clear in his writings that he hated black people. He also left behind a suicide note before taking his own life. We've also learned he bought the guns legally despite once being committed involuntarily for a mental health exam. Here's Jacksonville's mayor speaking about that component of this morning. Listen.
If we want to go deeper than that, if you want to go further than the guns, you got to address the hate, and you've got to address the fact that we don't seem to want to acknowledge the truth of our history and the way that we should be dealing with it.
Meantime, as he prepared to speak at yesterday's vigil, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was heckled and booed by some members of the crowd there. Listen. The Republican governor and candidate for the White House in 2024 is known for his pro-gun policies. DeSantis said the state will be sending financial support to that HBCU, Edward Waters, near where the shooting happened. Meantime, this park is not lost on us. The weekend attack happening at the community prepared to observe a violent racist attack that occurred 63 years ago in Jacksonville, known as Axe Handle Saturday. Then white protesters used axe handles as bats to beat black demonstrators as they peacefully protested segregation.
That was Morris Sirianni reporting there for us. All eyes are on the Gulf right now as Tropical Storm Idalia intensifies. It's heading toward Florida, and it's projected to hit the state as a major hurricane. Forecasters say it's going to feed off the Gulf of Mexico's warm water and might be a Category 3 when it makes landfall. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declaring a state of emergency for 33 counties.
If you are in the path of this storm, expect to lose power for a certain amount of time, and so just take whatever precautions are necessary as a result of that.
Scripps News meteorologist Scott Withers is in Panama City, Florida, tracking Idalia as it intensifies.
The news that this hurricane is now going to reach major status. That's Category 3 or above with sustained winds of 111 miles per hour. Well, that changed everything. In Tampa, they are filling those sandbanks. That is a low-lying city there. They are going to see some flash flooding when this comes through. They're going to get up to 5 inches of rain. On top of that, there could be a storm surge of up to 5 feet in that area. Governor DeSantis urging people to get out and get your supplies. Today is the last full day that you can do that. That's why people are going to the stores. They're getting generators, flashlights, batteries, that non-perishable food, and the water. The governor also deploying the National Guard and high water rescue vehicles because that's likely going to be needed with the storm surge.
In terms of resources, we have mobilized 1,100 National Guardsmen, and they have at their disposal 2,400 high water vehicles, as well as 12 aircraft that can be used for rescue and recovery efforts.
This hurricane making landfall less than a year after Hurricane Ian devastated Fort Myers Beach. That was a Category 4 when it came ashore with a massive storm surge of above 10 feet. More than 150 people died, most of them due to the flooding. So where is this storm? It is still down there off of Cuba. It is going to move into the Gulf of Mexico, and that is when it's going to rapidly intensify. Take a look at the cone here. You can see it moving through the Gulf. The water's there extremely warm, and then by early Wednesday morning, it gets into that Category 3 or major hurricane status before it makes landfall. This event, this hurricane landfall later this week, is a serious event, and it's not only on the shore, inland, Orlando, Ocala, Gainesville. You are going to see heavy rain, strong winds, possibly some tornadoes, and by the time Wednesday afternoon rolls around, this will still be a Category 1 storm when it reaches Savannah, except it's going to be a land hurricane coming from behind the city instead of from the ocean.
All right, Scotty Withers reporting there with the latest storm track for us. Scotty, thank you. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, what we now know about the conditions of the U.S. Marines on board an aircraft that crashed in Australia. Plus this.
I'm Joe St. George. It's now been 2 years since the fall of Kabul, Afghanistan. Coming up, we speak with some Gold Star families set to speak in Washington this week about their pain 2 years later and questions for those who are in charge.
To a child, this is what conflict looks like. Children in Ukraine are caught in the crossfire of war, forced to flee their homes.
A steady stream of refugees has been coming across all day. It's bitterly cold.
Lacking clean water and sanitation, exposed to injury, hunger.
Exhausted and shell-shocked from what they've been through.
Every dollar you give can help bring a meal, a blanket, or simply hope to a child living in conflict. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. That's just 33 cents a day. We cannot forget the children in places like Syria, born in refugee camps, playing in refugee camps, thinking of the camps as home. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. Your gift can help children like Ara in Afghanistan, where nearly 20 years of conflict have forced the people into extreme poverty. Weakened and unable to hold herself up, Ara was brought to a Save the Children center where she was diagnosed and treated for severe malnutrition. Every dollar helps. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month, just 33 cents a day. And thanks to special government grants that are available now, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this special Save the Children tote bag to show you won't forget the children who are living their lives in conflict. Every war is a war against children. Please, give now.
Get customizable furniture at joybird.com that complements your art, your green thumb, or just you. Save up to 45% off select bestsellers. Shop an unparalleled selection at joybird.com.
Will you pause it real quick? Just sold the car to Carvana.
What?
All I had to do was answer a couple of questions and got a real offer in seconds. Then they just picked up the car and paid me right on the spot.
Sell your car at Carvana.com today.
Sunday nights on In Real Life.
For the baby?
Yeah!
Scripps News journalists take you off the grid.
We were just a bunch of kids with a camera.
Stunts have become more specialized.
And to the heart of the story.
When the pandemic hit, the American dream kind of changed.
There were a lot of warning signs. They just didn't care.
In Real Life, Sunday at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Hey there, you're watching Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. I want to go ahead and start right now. Overseas, 8 U.S. Marines in the hospital after an aircraft crash left 3 other service members dead in Australia. Officials not releasing their conditions, but we do know the first 5 Marines to arrive at the hospital had critical injuries. That aircraft carrying 23 Marines when it crashed yesterday morning during a training exercise. Investigators will remain at the crash site for at least 10 days to determine the cause. And then tomorrow, Gold Star families who lost loved ones during the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan will meet in Washington, D.C. to mark 2 years since the fall of Kabul. 13 service members killed in a bombing at the airport in Kabul. Deputy Political Director Joe St. George takes a closer look at how the political debate about leaving Afghanistan is still raising questions and invoking pain for families who made the ultimate sacrifice.
The end of August and beginning of September conjures up different emotions for different people. But for some Gold Star families who lost loved ones during the fall of Afghanistan now 2 years ago, this time of year will always be marked with some pain and some sadness and questions for those who were in charge.
I said, Mom, Ryan's dead.
2 years have passed, but it isn't any easier for Paula Knaus Self to talk about the death of her son, Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Christian Knaus. This is the final message he sent her on Snapchat this past Saturday, marking 2 years since he was killed in a bombing in Afghanistan as the U.S. withdrew troops after a nearly 20-year presence. Knaus was one of 13 American service members killed in what is now known as the Abbey Gate bombing.
I couldn't believe that Ron was gone.
Since that time, Self has turned grief into action, which will be on full display this week in Washington as other Gold Star families who lost loved ones during the U.S. withdrawal will participate in a Tuesday roundtable on Capitol Hill, not only to mark 2 years, but also to bring attention to what happened.
Who is going to be taking responsibility for the loss of lives and that debacle? Is it just the military that's to be blamed? Or was it because of political decisions?
The event occurring as Republicans on Capitol Hill continue their investigation into what happened. Within the last month, the State Department turning over to Congress around 300 related documents. Meanwhile, a separate bipartisan Afghanistan War Commission continues its multi-year look into the conflict. The White House earlier this year posting a 12-page review about the Afghanistan withdrawal on its website, in which it placed some blame on the Trump administration for allowing the Taliban to become so organized. The White House writing, "We continue to mourn the loss of the 13 heroes and vow to continue to support their families." The question of how Americans lost their lives isn't the only political debate happening 2 years later. There remains frustration by some that the U.S. isn't issuing more visas to help more citizens of Afghanistan now trapped under Taliban rule. As for Self, she just hopes this issue is on the minds of voters this election.
Who's going to take responsibility for causing such chaos?
Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
Also overseas at this hour, Russia confirming the death of Yevgeny Prigozhin. The militia leader was one of 10 people listed on the manifest of a flight that went down last week outside of Moscow. Over the weekend, Russian officials said genetic testing of the remains matched all of those on board. Prigozhin's death comes 2 months after he led a failed mutiny against Russian President Vladimir Putin. U.S. intelligence agencies say that Putin likely had killed him. The Kremlin has dismissed the claim as, quote, an absolute lie. In the meantime, U.S. defense officials report Ukraine is making gains in its counteroffensive. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, says the counteroffensive is progressing slower than Ukraine had hoped. Ukrainians have liberated a considerable portion of Russian-occupied territory. General Milley goes on to say Kyiv has considerable combat power to help them to continue to take back more territory. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for your time today. We always appreciate you being with us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. That's where you can check us out online. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. Here's what's straight ahead. Job seekers' expectations remain high, but they're not matching up with the labor market's reality. We're going to take a closer look at the disconnect after a quick break. Also, a new plan supposed to make college loan repayments, quote, the most affordable they've ever been. We're going to have the details after a quick break. You're watching Scripps News Live. We're back after this.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Monday. I'm Veronica Cruz. Well, this week, interest on student loans will restart following a more than 3-year pause during the pandemic. Payments for those loans will resume in October. And while the Supreme Court struck down President Biden's debt forgiveness plan, the administration's new repayment plan could help millions of borrowers. Lydia Vasquez with Scripps News Tampa shows us how.
$1.7 trillion. That's how much Americans owe collectively when it comes to student loan debt. There is new help out there, though, for millions of borrowers.
I graduated from law school in 1999, and I've been paying those loans back since then.
Angelica Colwell tells me her law school loans were originally around $70,000. She's already paid about $60,000, but still owes just as much.
Because of the way the interest goes, I haven't gotten anywhere. It's the one debt that I've never been able to catch up on.
But that could soon change for Colwell. She's one of the millions of student loan borrowers that could benefit from the Biden administration's new program called SAVE, or Saving on a Valuable Education.
Someone going on SAVE will never have an increasing interest balance due to having a low payment. And that's critical because we've had folks that have had enormous increases in their balances to where they might have started with $30,000. They're easily $100,000 or higher now.
I wanted to learn more about how the loan payback program works, so I spoke with Chrissy Arkovich, who specializes in student loan work. She says the SAVE program is not forgiving debt completely, but it's income-based, and it will keep interest from accumulating.
Anyone who's making $30,000 and single under SAVE would arguably have a zero payment. And so there'll be a lot of folks with a $0 to maybe $100 payment. The vast majority of people that used to be on repay before COVID hit, basically they're going to automatically transfer to SAVE. And SAVE will probably be about a third of what their former payment used to be. And that's significant right now.
Because of this, Colwell says she'll finally be able to put a dent into her student loans.
I think that my savings is going to be around $61,000.
Meanwhile, Arkovich says the SAVE program's qualifications are unlike anything we've had previously.
If you are married and you file a joint tax return, you can file a separate return come January and have your payment based solely on your income. And that's significant.
People with direct subsidized, unsubsidized, and consolidated loans could qualify for SAVE. As for Colwell, she says she's waited more than 20 years for something like this.
At the end of the day, I feel like I'm getting out of it what I was hoping to get, which is just fair repayment of money that I borrowed.
Reporting in Tampa, I'm Lydia Vasquez.
In the meantime, President Biden is planning to ask Congress for more money to develop a new COVID vaccine. There's already an updated vaccine in the works that also targets the Omicron subvariant XBB.1.5. Officials hope that new shot will be available to the public this fall. The chances of Congress approving the president's requests are unclear right now. Last fall, Congress did not pass the administration's more than $9 billion package to combat the virus. And clinical trials are underway for a new brain cancer treatment. Katie Rammel with Scripps News Phoenix shows us how it's been offering new hope to patients.
And sure enough, he clipped up to this, this light and saw this big white thing. And he goes, "You have a brain tumor." And I still remember it to this day, and it just sucks the wind out of your lungs. And I have what? I have my whole life in front of me.
Heather Neese will never forget the start of her brain cancer journey. Like so many patients, quickly becoming studied in her diagnosis.
They're educated. They understand what they're facing. They know that what has been tried before them hasn't worked. And so That's where clinical trials and experimental therapies come in.
Dr. Sinai at the IV Brain Tumor Center is realistic about what brain cancer patients are up against.
You know, developing drugs for brain cancer patients is an uphill battle. It's not that pharmaceuticals and biotechs don't want to help. It's just that the market size for brain cancer patients is far smaller than it is for other cancer patients.
He says that's where trials come in.
And in the last 5 years, the Ivy Center has introduced more new early phase clinical trials than any center in the country. And we're leading the field in trying new therapeutics in these patients and clever ways of getting them there. Because sometimes it's not just about the drug you're giving, but whether it's getting to the tumor itself.
Getting to the tumor through an IV in the wrist, threading a microcatheter up the wrist, up the arm, past the heart, through their neck vessel to the very base of the tumor.
And then at that moment, with this catheter dock there, we release an agent that opens up what's called the blood-brain barrier, which is this protective lining that prevents drugs from getting into the tumor. And then when it's open, that's when we flood it with the new drug. And so this has been a revolution for us in terms of getting new drug in. It's increased the amount of drug we get into a tumor by up to 250-fold.
Through the wrist.
That's right. This happens through the wrist.
This delivery method is in trials, but Dr. Sinai calls it a game changer. Its progress patients like Heather, who was given 6 months to live in 2006, are so very grateful for.
I am better than I could ever be. Yep, I'm very grateful that I have my health.
And today, she's using her voice to help others.
I just want to encourage them that you don't have to be a statistic. You can be the outlier.
I'm Katie Rammel reporting.
Well, your Apple Watch could be more than just a fashion statement. Kurt Williams of Scripps News Norfolk met a man who received an alert that his doctor is saying likely saved his life.
Tom Morehouse is an avid golfer. The Hampton retiree was out on the course one day and his Apple Watch vibrated.
Kind of twitched at me, and I looked down and it said, "You're in atrial fibrillation." And I said, "That can't be. That must be an anomaly or something." So I continued on.
You weren't feeling anything?
I didn't feel anything.
His Apple Watch also has an ECG, an electrocardiogram function to check for an irregular heartbeat.
You go over here and there is the ECG. Hold your finger on the crown. This records onto my iPhone and I can just send it to my cardiologist.
You checked that the first few times it went off?
Yes.
And it looked normal?
It did.
How many times do you figure your Apple Watch went off?
Over the course of a month or so, probably a dozen times.
A dozen times?
A dozen times.
And you didn't think anything of it?
No, I didn't. Went to give blood at the Red Cross. The technician said, "I'm not going to allow you to give blood because you have an irregular heartbeat."
Now, how did they detect that?
Just with the stethoscope.
What was your reaction when you went to give blood and they said, "You can't give blood"?
I said, my Apple Watch was telling me something that I should have listened to.
When we actually looked at his Apple tracings, the Apple Watch tracings weren't actually correct. He actually was in normal rhythm. So we did further workup, including an ultrasound of his heart, and what he actually had was aortic stenosis.
Dr. Eric Keel was the first Centera healthcare cardiologist to see him.
Although the watch was wrong, it was helpful because it was picking up something that got him to us.
In retrospect, there was a lot of clues.
Why do you say that?
Because I would get winded and just get worn out after, what I considered not very much exercise at all.
Tom was referred here to Centera's Heart Hospital for a procedure, and it was a mouthful. Transcatheter aortic valve replacement. He had a blockage in the main valve going from his heart, and it is a good thing he got it fixed.
If he had not had that procedure done, his life expectancy would be somewhere on the order of 6 months to a year.
It was another Centera cardiologist, Dr. Matthew Summers, who you see here, replacing that critical valve in a procedure which no longer requires open heart surgery.
So in his case, I would actually say his Apple Watch probably saved his life.
What's your view now about your Apple Watch?
Oh, I'm not without it. The Apple Watch or the Fitbit or whatever you're wearing is with you almost all day, every day. So it can do things that you're not aware of.
Because sometimes we don't listen to our bodies.
We do not. Yeah, I learned that.
I'm Kurt Williams for Scripps News.
Thank goodness for that. Well, a new study out shows mental health care visits increased significantly during the pandemic. The study published in JAMA Health Forum looked at insurance claims filed between March 20 2020 rather, in August 2022. And researchers found that mental health visits increased by 39%, and the use of telehealth increased tenfold. 78% of the visits were for anxiety and depression. Researchers say they believe teletherapy helped lower barriers to mental health access. And they also note teletherapy visits have continued at that increased rate since the pandemic ended. I'm Veronica Cruz. You're watching Scripps News Live. We'll be right back.
I used to think all doctors were the same. Then I switched to Oak Street Health. You see, this isn't your typical doctor's office. Instead of waiting around for me to get sick, they focus on keeping me healthy and feeling good. Hey, still got it.
Zion, no sugar, right?
And the best part, everyone at Oak Street Health is experienced with people my age.
At Oak Street Health, we specialize in caring for older adults like you with a focus on keeping you healthy. So don't wait. Call today.
Zion, we're ready for you.
Here people get to know me the old-fashioned way.
By listening.
This guy takes all the notes, so my doctor is all eyes on me, and I'm never rushed out.
Ready to go?
We get to know you better with longer appointment times, including same-day and next-day appointments.
Everyone gets their own personal care team. Hey, whether it's doctors, nurses, social workers, mental health support, even someone to help me understand my Medicare benefits. They all work together for me, myself, and I. Not to mention a 24/7 patient support line.
We customized a plan for him, and we can do the same for you.
Getting the care you need has never been easier because our team members work together to handle all your healthcare needs.
And you get all this with no extra cost. They even gather all your medical records and health history. So switching to their doctors is easy. And you can keep living your life your way.
At Oak Street Health, we specialize in caring for older adults like you. Call 800-967-2157 to schedule a visit and see why we are the only primary care provider to carry the AARP name. Oak Street Health.
One way to avoid expensive car repair bills is to be a race car driver. The other is Endurance.
Endurance saved me more than $7,000.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered.
Endurance covers nearly every car on the road. Plus,
you pick the mechanic you trust.
Act now for $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-855-588-2580 now.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush.
Get the stories that will shape each day.
Definitely a lot of folks talking about this.
So you can get on with yours. Morning Rush, weekday mornings starting at 7/6 Central, only on Scripps News.
As the labor market cools, the perks of switching jobs are dwindling. Companies are getting more careful about hiring, so high salaries and signing bonuses have been declining. ZipRecruiter reports nearly half of the 2,000 employers they surveyed last month said that they reduced pay for recent job openings. While businesses have been cutting new hires' salaries, a New York Federal Reserve survey shows job seekers say it would take at least a $78,000 salary for them to switch jobs, and that is an 8% increase from just a year ago. Chris Campbell is a senior advisor and former chief policy strategist at Cruz, which is a financial and risk advisory firm. Chris, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. So, how do you explain the disconnect happening, Chris, between job seekers' expectations and businesses' salary cuts? How do you square the two?
I think what's happening is you see many people who have actually been participating in the labor force for the last several even years now, where it's actually been a workers' world where they've been actually been able to determine and dictate what they're getting paid. As we, if we're looking to move to a contractionary period or something where the economy is going to slow down, perhaps, and jobs may also slow as well, it may turn into a more of an employer's world where they start dictating the terms of employment and reducing salaries. I think it's just going to take some time for the average worker to kind of their brain and expectations to catch up to that. But we are seeing contractions in the job market, in services and technology and across the board. But the labor force still remains pretty strong and has remained strong for some time. So, of course, almost through the entire pandemic, post-pandemic, once people start going back to work. So we have just a weird world. It's kind of a new, we're still kind of working our way through the reopening process of after the pandemic. And so we're seeing, and a good example of this is that you see, in many other economic terms, that we should be seeing a contractionary period. Federal Reserve's raised rates. They've, brought the cost of capital, very high. Everyone knows that because their credit cards are higher, or their auto loans are higher, or home loans are higher. But that's, for some reason, the job market hasn't cooled as it should when the Federal Reserve raised interest rates. Many people believe, myself included, that time is about to be upon us. We may see a slowing in the job market because of that, and so therefore we will likely see a reduction in wages across the board, as the survey that you mentioned talked about.
But I want to ask you specifically, Chris, about this salary. What is the average salary across America right now? Because if a worker is saying, I'm not going to go back into the workforce, or I'm not going to switch a job unless at least $78,000 are on the table, how realistic is that? What are we seeing right now?
So the average American family is about a $55,000 a month, $50,000 a year salary. It's about the average around the country. So 70,000 is quite a bit more than that. And I think that, I think we're at a place where I think workers have had a very mobile environment where they've been able to work remotely, been able to easily change jobs because of the number of jobs that are available. And they're now not tied to any location. So I think that has seen an increase in the amount of wages that we've seen as we've seen wage inflation coming along with all the other inflation we see in the country. Now, as the economy slows, which many predict it will, and the last quarter of this year or the first quarter of next year, if we do see that reduction in GDP and the economy, as will jobs will also constrict. And you have to remember the unemployment rate and wages actually are always a lagging indicator in economic terms. And so we'll see the economy will actually slow before jobs will slow or before we see wage deflation. And so, many people predict, and myself included, that's likely what we're going to be coming into. And so, we just have this weird mismatch of I believe, unrealistic expectations of wage information for the average American and average worker, and what companies are going to be willing to pay. And so that's, that will find a new equilibrium. And when that happens, I think, the average worker and myself included will realize that, kind of what that new level of pay is. But I really very much doubt that the average American salary is going to increase by $20,000 over the next several months.
It really is a confusing time, as you put it, in terms of the economy. Unemployment remains under 3.5% historic low. So I question how much competition remains right now for workers out there. Which industries have the greatest demand for employees? What are you seeing?
So as the economy's reopened, services actually had the most difficult time. So hospitality and all of those kind of hotels and airlines and restaurants, they've been having a very difficult time luring workers back into the workforce, and so there's a significant reduction in head count in that area, and the employers are looking to be expansive. Technology, depending on which company, there have been some massive layoffs, but so you look at in terms of cybersecurity or other parts of technology that really is expanding. And so you have manufacturing as well in some parts of the country is doing okay. And then interestingly enough, we actually have some dynamic changes right now that are taking place internationally. And so you see supply chains are changing, perhaps slowing in China and moving to other locations. But that certainly is the government has also put some money into redomesticating a lot of that manufacturing base here in the United States, which we see slowly coming online again. And so there are pockets of within the country that are growing on the workforce, but there certainly are a lot of them that are contracting, and you see most of the contractions in technology.
All right, Senior Advisor at Kroll, Chris Campbell, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, a 9-year-old cowboy defying the odds. Just a month after losing his thumb, he became a champion and has no plans to let his handicap hold him back. Also straight ahead on Scripps News Live's Simone Biles. She is back. And is she better than ever? How the gymnast is making history again 10 years after her first championship. We'll be right back.
You're looking pretty good, Mr. Johnson. But we need to take some x-rays today.
That's all.
Yes, x-rays are expensive, but the front desk said you recently enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits that now cover today's x-rays and cleaning costs.
Okay.
Well, Medicare Parts A and B do not cover your routine dental coverage like cleanings, fillings, or x-rays. Yes, you have a Medicare Part C plan, commonly called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part C plans cover everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Wow. That's great that my plan includes dental coverage that helps pay for these costs.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. A Medicare Part C plan could include dental coverage that pays for routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, dental x-rays, fillings, tooth extractions, root canals, dentures, implants, and crowns.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. You don't get a plan with these benefits automatically, so it's always good to call to see if there's a plan with extra benefits available in your zip code. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans available with additional benefits that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. In fact, 24 million Medicare beneficiaries do not have any dental coverage. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-614-5203. 800-614-5203.
Hi, I'm Sophia, founder of Pair Eyewear. The only glasses you can change, like you change your clothes. Each pair starts with a base frame, then choose from over hundreds of designs, like a top frame from your favorite holiday. Or you can even turn your glasses into sunglasses. Every pair starts at just $60, including prescription lenses. Glasses are an extension of your personality, and we're here to celebrate each and every version of you. Discover your next pair at paireyewear.com.
Carvana has hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews and counting.
The whole process was really simple and easy, and this is my 3rd time selling to Carvana.
You just enter your license plate or your VIN, answer a few questions, boom, you get a real offer.
Sell your car to Carvana today.
You're watching Scripps News. Streaming everywhere, totally free. Want to see more? Grab the app on your favorite streaming platform or go to scripsnews.com to find every way to watch. Go to scripsnews.com now to find out more.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. 7-time Olympic medalist Simone Biles is serving notice to her rivals that she is back. She didn't just win the all-around competition at the U.S. Gymnastics Championships in San Jose last weekend, she crushed it. Biles finishing 5 points ahead of the runner-up to win the 8th U.S. title of her career, and that is a record. Biles famously pulled out of the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo after having a case of the twisties. She couldn't connect her mind to her body while in midair. And now, at the age of 26, she is the clear favorite heading into next year's Olympics in Paris. Congratulations. Well, just a month after losing his thumb, a 9-year-old from northern Arizona beat the odds and walked away from a roping competition as the champion. Cameron Poland with Scripps News Phoenix brings us his inspiring story.
9-year-old Braden Chi seemed destined for roping greatness almost as soon as he took his first steps as a toddler. Watching and learning from his dad on their Arizona ranch, it was an obsession from nearly day one.
Just like a kid with their teddy bear or something, his was a rope. You couldn't go anywhere without it.
I found my first buckle when I was like 3 or 4.
As his skills continued to develop, so did his ambition.
The rope just got bigger and bigger and longer and longer.
Last November, while roping a steer on horseback, a frightening accident threatened to take it all away.
And he roped it, and he dallied. When he started turning, his rope started running with him, so his hand got sucked in there.
Braden's thumb was violently tangled in the rope. Within seconds, it was severed from his hand.
I looked down at it, and it was gone.
He was rushed to the hospital in hopes of having it reattached, this happening less than a month before he was set to compete in the Dummy Roping World Championship in Las Vegas.
I was crying because the doctors came in and they told me that I couldn't rope.
Dr. Catherine King with Phoenix Children successfully reattached his thumb but advised him the competition was out of reach. At a follow-up appointment, however, he asked for his splint to be trimmed lower so it didn't affect him doing schoolwork. But what he really wanted was to hold his rope again.
And when I went outside, he had that rope between his fingers right here, and he was trying to figure it out.
Adapting his grip for the injury, he convinced his parents to let him compete. And wouldn't you know it, less than a month after the accident, with a lasso of 27 feet, Braden became a world champion in his age group. In the process, proving anything is possible while bringing this old cowboy to tears.
I saw a cowboy that day, a rugged, tough little cowboy that day. That's what I saw.
I'm Cameron Poland reporting.
Oh, congratulations. Good for him. All right, mark your calendar because the second supermoon of the month is set to rise and then light up the sky on Wednesday. The blue moon will be the brightest and largest moon of the year. Sky watchers are in for a real treat because it's also a supermoon, meaning it's going to appear larger than usual. The next blue moon won't come around until August of next year. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for watching Scripps News Live today. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online at scripsnews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including worry in Florida, how people are preparing for a storm that could pack 100-mile-an-hour winds. We'll be right back.
If you, like many people, are covered by both Medicare and your state's Medicaid, here's something important to know. Now you could get even more health benefits than you already have. It's the United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan. To find out if you or someone you care about is eligible, it's easy. Call now to talk with us. We can explain it all and answer your questions. Medicaid gives you benefits, and Medicare gives you some too. But a Dual Complete Plan can add even more benefits and features compared to original Medicare. You'll have lots of doctors and hospitals to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions, including brand names. And depending on where you live, you could enjoy other benefits too, like more dental care and rides to and from your doctor or pharmacy. Most plans even give you up to $300 a month to help pay for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and new this year, utility bills. And best of all, with this plan, there's no extra cost to you. Remember, if you have Medicare and Medicaid, chances are you could get a dual complete plan. So call now to talk with us. Our agents are available to help. We know healthcare can be confusing. United Healthcare can straighten things out. And with over 40 years of experience, you can count on us to be there for you. With a dual complete plan, you could have a wide choice of doctors to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions. Help paying for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and utility bills. More dental coverage, too, all at no extra cost. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, you may be eligible for dual complete. So call the number on your screen now to see if you're eligible or to enroll. There's more for you with the United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan.
Hey there, thank you so much for joining us on this Monday afternoon. Always great to see you. I'm Veronica Cruz. Welcome to Scripps News Live. And we begin right now with a busy legal calendar for Donald Trump, with both state and federal cases on the agenda pertaining to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. First, a date has been set for the former president's trial in D.C., March 4th, 2024. Lawyers for the former president were back in a D.C. courtroom this morning before federal judge Tanya Chutkan. And the trial dates each side were proposing were dramatically different. Special counsel Jack Smith submitting a date right after the first of the year on January 2nd. Trump's team asking for April of 2026. National political correspondent Avajoy Burnett is live in Washington right now. She joins us now with the details. So Avajoy, let's talk about all of these trial dates. And let's start with the March 4th date. What is the significance of this date exactly?
Hi, Veronica. Good afternoon to you. Well, this trial date essentially kicks off all of the trial dates for the former president, Donald Trump. This will be the first one in 2024. And March 4th, it is one day before Super Tuesday, one of the major voting days for the former president. This is one of the days where he really is looking forward to, because he is the front runner in the Republican field to be the next president. And so this is why this is significant. It will be the first case, and then also one day before a major voting day. Just to kind of put all of this into context for you, the government, they wanted a trial date to start on January 2nd of 2024. The defense team here, they wanted to start everything off more than 2 years from now, 2 years and 7 months from now, in April of 2026. So we were able to speak with a former federal prosecutor about the timelines for both of these groups here and what he thinks this decision means, the decision that the judge made not too long ago.
It seems that she felt that both sides' proposals were somewhat unreasonable, and she was fed up with the parties trying to dictate what the trial date should be. The defense request was much too far out, some 2.5 years from now, far after the 2024 election date that they were trying to avoid. And the prosecution's date was perhaps too ambitious, trying to set it in January.
And Veronica, even though we have a March 4th trial date here for the January 6th case, there is a possibility that things could be pushed off, especially if the defense team is able to make a strong enough argument that they need additional time.
And Avajoy, I understand that we had a producer inside the courtroom today. What did he report back? What was happening? What was it like?
Well, everything started right on time, right around 10 o'clock today when the judge walked in and the proceedings started. And he reported, his name is Sam Lisker, one of our producers who was inside, and he reported that it was at times very fiery inside. John Lauro, he's one of the main defense attorneys for the former president, and he argued that they needed additional time to get prepared for this trial. Keep in mind that there is an immense amount of discovery of evidence that they will have to go through in order to adequately prepare a defense for the former president, more than 12 million pages. And so he said that a man's life and freedom is at stake here. But on the flip side of things, the judge here said they will not get an additional 2 years. And this is why we saw her set this trial date for March of next year. This is possibly a major win for the prosecution in this case. And when the defense members walked out of the courtroom today, we were able to ask them a question. Take a listen.
Will you have adequate time to prepare, sir?
And so that was me asking John Lauro, one of the main attorneys for the former president, if they will have sufficient time to get ready for that trial date. That is just about 6 months from now. There was no answer from him. And that is significant because just a few weeks ago, I was able to ask him additional questions outside this courthouse. He was very talkative then, but not so much today. They did have a win inside when they asked not to be docked for time with regards to the speedy trial, right? And that was a win that they got from the judge. She essentially gave them additional time on the clock, but the trial date as of this moment is set for March 4th of next year, Veronica.
Yeah, quite significant when you think that they were asking for a trial date all the way out in 2026, some 2 years away. All right, Avajoy Burnett live for us in Washington. Avajoy, thank you so much. I want to get you now to Georgia, where at least 5 of the 19 co-defendants charged with trying to overturn the 2020 election results are trying to move their cases from state court to federal court. Now, the first in line is former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Arguments made on his behalf were heard this morning at federal court in Atlanta, where the burden of proving why is on the defendant. National political correspondent Alex Miller covering the case in Georgia for us. She joins us now live. So Alex, bring us up to speed. What exactly happened in court today?
Well, look, we don't know how long this case is going to go on. It's a mini trial of sorts where the defense, as you said, has the burden of proving that this case needs to be moved to federal court. And what's interesting about this is Mark Meadows is not the only one that is asking for this to happen. There are 5 defendants in this case, at least right now, that are doing that. His is the first case. He says he was acting in his professional capacity when he was advising the former president during this whole time period after Election Day up through January 6th about what to do with the Georgia election results. He said he was acting in his professional capacity, but Fani Willis, the district attorney, says if you were doing that, then you are violating what's called the Hatch Act, which says that you cannot engage in partisan political matters when you are a federal employee. And so there's a back and forth going on right now. And Mark Meadows himself has taken this stand in Georgia, something I think that was pretty unexpected because obviously he's going to be questioned by his own lawyers, but he has the opportunity to be questioned by the district attorney. And that obviously could create some huge frustrations and issues for him. But Fani Willis has a whole list of witnesses herself. She's calling Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, Secretary of State's Chief Investigative Officer Francis Watson, as well as a couple of lawyers that we know of so far. There's a really big it's high stakes here because of the other people that are going to be paying attention to the results of Meadows' case right now, because it's not just these 5. There's potential that other people that are defendants in this case could be looking onto this as well. And so this is up in the air right now, but for Mark Meadows, he believes he would have a more fair trial if this was brought to federal court. He's the only one, I should say, of these 5 besides Jeff Clark, who is a former DOJ official who actually was a federal employee at this time. This obviously is just one part of the puzzle right now. There are arraignments already scheduled. September 6th is going to be a very long day, Veronica. Fani Willis has scheduled all of the defendants to be arraigned on September 6th, starting with the former president at 9:30 in the morning, going all the way through about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So everyone by September 6th is going to have to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty.
Yeah, it's going to be a long day indeed. So, Alex, I want to ask you about the judge in this case. The judge presiding over this case is Scott McAfee. What are we hearing right now? Is he likely to agree to this request? Because, as you pointed out, Mark Meadows is going to set a precedent here.
Yeah, I think it's anybody's guess right now what he's going to decide to do. I think that he knows that there are other ones coming down the pike, and so that's something to also be paying attention to. But also, each case has to be treated separately, as we're going to start to see these people start to try to sever their cases. We know that Fani Willis wants to try all of these people together, so there's that portion of it that goes with this. But when it comes to his decision, obviously, we don't know exactly what that would be yet. But I will say the burden not only is on the defendant, but the bar is pretty high, and Willis's team says that Meadows has just not met it.
All right, Alex Miller live in New York. Alex, we always appreciate it. Thank you so much. Still to come on Scripps News Live, Tropical Storm Idalia intensifying as it barrels towards Florida. We're tracking the storm and how people in its path have been preparing. And don't forget, you can always count on Scripps News for all of your news throughout the primetime hours as well, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll be right back.
To a child, this is what conflict looks like. Children in Ukraine are caught in the crossfire of war, forced to flee their homes.
A steady stream of refugees has been coming across all day. It's bitterly cold.
Lacking clean water and sanitation, exposed to injury, hunger.
Exhausted and shell-shocked from what they've been through.
Every dollar you give can help bring a meal, a blanket, or simply hope to a child living in conflict. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. That's just 33 cents a day. We cannot forget the children in places like Syria, born in refugee camps, playing in refugee camps, thinking of the camps as home. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. Your gift can help children like Ara in Afghanistan, where nearly 20 years of conflict have forced the people into extreme poverty. Weakened and unable to hold herself up, Ara was brought to a Save the Children center where she was diagnosed and treated for severe malnutrition. Every dollar helps. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month, just 33 cents a day. And thanks to special government grants that are available now, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this special Save the Children tote bag to show you won't forget the children who are living their lives in conflict. Every war is a war against children. Please, give now.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-820-9953.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and will even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-820-9953. That's 800-820-9953.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. Want to get you the very latest now on the storm track in the Gulf as Tropical Storm Idalia intensifies. It is headed toward Florida. It's now projected to hit the state as a major hurricane. Forecasters say it's going to feed off the Gulf of Mexico's warm water and might be a Category 3 storm when it makes landfall. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declaring a state of emergency for 33 counties.
If you are in the path of this storm, expect to lose power for a certain amount of time, and so just take whatever precautions are necessary as a result of that.
Many Floridians spent part of their weekend preparing for Idalia. Lydia Vasquez with Scripps News Tampa found them stocking up on sandbags.
Every time there's a storm, I usually get sandbags, and it's a good way to protect water from coming into my garage.
10 sandbags later, Emily Rogers says she's not taking any chances.
It's also good because we live close to Hillsborough River, to be safe and protected just in case the water rises higher than you think it's going to rise.
Rogers isn't alone. People stuff their trunks with sandbags as dozens of locations open up to the public ahead of Idalia.
You know, we're college students, so we're just trying to prepare as best as we can, and we're trying to make sure nothing happens to our apartment.
Officials recommend anyone whose home is at risk for flooding consider picking up sandbags. They also suggest checking your yards for things like debris, which can clog up storm drains and make flooding worse. Sunday, Governor Ron DeSantis held a press conference encouraging everyone to closely monitor this storm after issuing a state of emergency for about half of Florida.
Anybody on this Gulf Coast certainly from Tampa all the way up to places like Bay County, you should absolutely be very vigilant right now. You should be following the track of the storm, and you should just be making your preparations. Listen to the folks who are the emergency management and the local officials. They are going to be the ones that are going to be issuing guidance on evacuating if there's any road closure.
Meanwhile, officials are encouraging everyone to make a plan.
Things that you should consider. How will we receive our communications and warnings? What is our plan for shelter? What is our evacuation route? What is our internal family communication plan if we should get separated?
It's a good time to make sure you have a basic supply kit, which includes water, 1 gallon a day per person for at least 3 days, battery-powered radios, a flashlight, and a first aid kit.
It's better to be prepared versus not prepared and have regrets.
And that was Lydia Vasquez reporting for us from Tampa. Our coverage of the storm continues. In about 15 minutes from now, we're going to share concerns from some Floridians still recovering from Hurricane Ian. That was a hurricane that hit the state last September. That story straight ahead at 1:30 Eastern right here on Scripps News Live. So Hawaiian Electric is saying a lawsuit blaming it for the deadly Maui wildfires is, quote, factually and legally irresponsible. The Maui County sued the utility last week, and it claims that Hawaiian Electric was negligent because it failed to shut down equipment despite warnings that power lines would topple in hurricane-force winds. The county claimed down power lines started the fire that destroyed the historic town of Lahaina. At least 115 people died in the fires. 388 are still listed as missing. Don't forget, the people of Maui still need your help along the way. Monetary donations are going to be crucial for survivors struggling to piece their lives back together and recover. Scripps News has been supporting the relief efforts through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. All you have to do is scan that QR code that you see on the bottom of your screen if you would like to help. Coming up, the city of Jacksonville, Florida, reeling after a deadly shooting. Police say there is no question right now about the motive.
He hated blacks, and I think he hated just about everyone that wasn't white. He made that very clear.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, the very latest on the investigation and how city leaders are helping the community cope. That's after a quick break.
I used to think all doctors were the same. Then I switched to Oak Street Health. You see, this isn't your typical doctor's office. Instead of waiting around for me to get sick, they focus on keeping me healthy and feeling good. Hey, still got it.
Zion, no sugar, right?
And the best part, everyone at Oak Street Health is experienced with people my age.
At Oak Street Health, we specialize in caring for older adults like you with a focus on keeping you healthy. So don't wait. Call today.
Zion, we're ready for you.
Here people get to know me the old-fashioned way.
By listening.
This guy takes all the notes, so my doctor is all eyes on me, and I'm never rushed out.
Ready to go?
We get to know you better with longer appointment times, including same-day and next-day appointments.
Everyone gets their own personal care team. And whether it's doctors, nurses, social workers, mental health support, even someone to help me understand my Medicare benefits, they all work together for me, myself, and I. Not to mention a 24/7 patient support line.
We customized a plan for him, and we can do the same for you.
Getting the care you need has never been easier because our team members work together to handle all your healthcare needs.
And you get all this with no extra cost. They even gather all your medical records and health history. So switching to their doctors is easy. And you can keep living your life your way.
At Oak Street Health, we specialize in caring for older adults like you. Call 800-967-2157 to schedule a visit and see why we are the only primary care provider to carry the AARP name. Oak Street Health.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
From every walk of life.
Oh my God.
These are the untold accounts, the voices breaking silence. Join renowned journalists and filmmakers for new stories every week.
I have to help expose that.
Is that a pro-life ethic?
They just don't make sense to me. That makes sense at all.
Scripps News Showcase, Sunday nights at 9/8 Central on Scripps News.
Learning more about a racist shooting at a Dollar General in Jacksonville, Florida, where 3 people were killed. Police say the 21-year-old gunman left behind manifestos detailing his hatred for black people and carried a weapon with a swastika. National correspondent Morris Irani has the latest on this shooting and other gun violence over the weekend.
About 200 people yesterday gathered to mourn the lives of those 3 black people killed in the country's latest attack motivated by hatred. Police say Angela Carr was in her vehicle when she was killed. She had just dropped off a friend at the Dollar General. A.J. Laguerre worked there, and Jared Gallion was killed as he walked inside that store with his girlfriend. Investigators say leading up to the attack, the shooter, a 21-year-old white man, was seen at Edward Waters University. That's a historically black college about a half mile away from that scene. He was reportedly putting on tactical gear there and gearing up. The surveillance video shows the moment the suspect entered the store wearing a mask and carrying a weapon. Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters said the suspect used an AR-15 and a Glock handgun. Photos released by the sheriff's office show at least one of those weapons had a swastika painted on it. Sheriff Waters said the shooter made clear in his writings that he hated black people. He also left behind a suicide note before taking his own life. We've also learned he bought the guns legally despite once being committed involuntarily for a mental health exam. Here's Jacksonville's mayor speaking about that component of this morning. Listen.
If we want to go deeper than that, if you want to go further than the guns, you got to address the hate, and you've got to address the fact that we don't seem to want to acknowledge the truth of our history and the way that we should be dealing with it.
Meantime, as he prepared to speak at yesterday's vigil, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was heckled and booed by some members of the crowd there. Listen. The Republican governor and candidate for the White House in 2024 is known for his pro-gun policies. DeSantis said the state will be sending financial support to that HBCU, Edward Waters, near where the shooting happened. Meantime, this part is not lost on us. The weekend attack happening at the community prepared to observe a violent racist attack that occurred 63 years ago in Jacksonville, known as Axe Handle Saturday. Then white protesters used axe handles as bats to beat black demonstrators as they peacefully protested segregation.
All right, Maura, thank you. That was our Maura Sirianni reporting there for us. Well, Jacksonville City Councilwoman Jacoby Pittman was on the scene immediately after the shooting occurred. She was talking to people in the area and comforting the victims' families, and she joined Morning Rush earlier.
Our mayor, Donna Deegan, and our sheriff, we have decided that we will no longer take this, and that we need to share our story, to the country, to the communities, of how we will no longer accept hate in our community. And for this community to be attacked the way it did, have no, this gunman had no interest of human lives that he took. It was very apparent that he was intentional about taking lives. Even before he came in the store, young lady sitting in her car, she had no idea of what to expect. And I'm going to tell you, I was angry, I was outraged, and if I was a fighter, I would have probably kicked somebody behind. But I am glad that, our community is trying to heal and come together in unity and make sure we take care of those 3 families that were impacted by this attack.
You mentioned the woman in her car, just for the record. He shot in that car 11 times.
that tells you the brutality of the moment.
And on one hand, we have this conversation about the gun debate, right, that we have over and over and over again every time a situation like this happens, because he did obtain that gun legally. And so that's always kind of the core of that discussion. But on the other hand, you can't really ignore the fact that in Florida right now, Governor Ron DeSantis is trying to pass legislation that will make it so that history, Black history, is not taught as American history, and African American history is not an AP course, things like that. So when we're trying to raise our children to be accepting people and to know that the color of one's skin should not matter and does not give you a reason to kill someone, that's also going on at the same time. How do you grapple with something like that when you're trying to teach that message? But at the same time, this is what's going on in Florida schools right now.
You know, there's a lot of moving parts. It's unacceptable for what is going on in our state, in our communities. And history is what it is. We can't take our history back. We can't sugarcoat it. It needs to be said for what it is. It is what it is. And our community is grappling with that. You know, the school board is grappling with that. I say leave it the way it is. We didn't expect, I had no idea that the governor was coming to Jacksonville. You know, it got a little bit disturbing, but at the end of the day, a bullet don't know whether it's Democrat, Republican, or it doesn't know. And yesterday wasn't really about him. Yesterday was about those families that needed our support and for us to come together inclusively as a community. And that's what, you know, it's not about this governor coming to that meeting. I want to make that clear that we were saddened about the families who were impacted, and we want to make sure that there are laws that can be developed to make sure that we don't have any more gunmen to come in our community and take lives that's unnecessary. This was a senseless act of death, and I'm very upset. I'm mad about it, and I want the community, I want the world to know about that. We actually have a call to action, because guess what? The young man that was shot, he had given his life to God last week, and you know, he was the breadwinner of the family. You know, he wasn't anybody that had a criminal background. You know, he wasn't any a thug or anything. This is a thriving community. And so I want to make sure, as the story is told, is that we want to make sure that we continue economic development in older communities like this. But this gentleman was the breadwinner of his family and did not deserve that. We're trying to raise $100,000 for these families. You know, there's mental health issues that need to be taken care of with these families. They're going to need basic needs. We got to pay for funerals. You know, I want to make sure that my appeal to the community and to the individuals that are listening to my voice, that I need your help. Right. I'm asking you to send your donations to jfrd.com. That is our fire department that's here. Everybody has jumped in and they want to help. We want to make sure that we continue the unity and the love that this family deserves.
That was Jacksonville City Councilman Jacoby Pittman there. I'm Veronica Cruz for the audience leading us right now. Your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online at scripsnews.com. Here's what's straight ahead. While still picking up the pieces from Hurricane Ian nearly a year ago, we're going to share the fears of Floridians next.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Kenyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
Does this look familiar? You probably think this is what owning hearing aids would be like. Let me tell you, there's a better way. The Atom by Audion Hearing. The all-new Audion Atom is the world's first wireless charging hearing aid under $100. The Atom comes with an easy-to-use wireless charging dock. Plus, the Atom has a 22% smaller design, so it's nearly invisible when worn in the ear. That's why we have over 250,000 happy customers. Each pair has a 45-day money-back guarantee, so there is zero risk in trying them.
Call 1-800-520-4214. That's 1-800-520-4214. Call 1-800-520-4214 or go to audionhearing.com to get your pair of Audion Atom hearing aids for only $99.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Monday. I'm Veronica Cruz. We begin right here in Florida. Nearly 1 year after Hurricane Ian ravaged parts of the state, people in some areas are now preparing for Tropical Storm Idalia. Caitlin Knapp with Scripps News Southwest Florida spoke with concerned residents who are in Port Charlotte, and they're still saying that they're recovering from Ian.
Devastating. Scary.
Thinking about Ian is still emotional for Jean Townsend.
Now I'm better, but it's hard talking about it.
While reliving those moments, she's gearing up for what's ahead. Tropical Storm Idalia.
Getting everything up off the ground, trimming the trees, food and supplies.
Something her neighbor Deb Walsh
I am ready.
is also doing.
We've already got water, gas tanks, just in case. Pull the generator out, make sure it's running.
Charlotte County is under a tropical storm watch and a storm surge watch as of Sunday night. A storm both Jean
Trying to regroup after Ian, and now it's almost makes me want to move out of Florida, but I'm not. I love it here.
and Deb are keeping an eye on.
I'm concerned about wind because there's so many people that are still having damage repaired, and the people that still have tarps, I worry about the rain.
Deb says she will likely stay for now. Though no evacuation has been ordered, Jean plans on leaving to ease her mind.
I have an RV now, so I'm hooking it up.
While getting storm ready,
Good buddies.
and they're also leaning on each other.
It's nice to have a decent, good friend that cares.
And says during a time like this, especially since so many of us are still recovering from Ian, being there for your neighbor is what's going to get us through the storm.
And that was Caitlin Knapp there reporting for us from Port Charlotte, Florida. Overseas now to Ukraine, where 3 Ukrainian fighter pilots died on Friday in a tragic midair collision. A year ago, one of them shared the dangerous realities of his job when he sat down with our Scripps News correspondent Jason Bellini. Take a listen.
An ace fighter jet pilot, a fierce advocate for F-16 jets for his country. We can now, for the most tragic of reasons, show the face and share the real name of the Ukrainian airman we met a year ago, who asked us to only identify him by his call sign.
Juice, it's my call sign.
Juice, Captain Andrei Pilshikov, died along with 2 other Ukrainian Air Force pilots in a 2-plane collision on Friday. The tragedy happened, the Air Force says, during a combat mission in a region west of Kyiv. President Vladimir Zelensky, announcing the tragic news, said that Juice helped his country a lot and will never be forgotten. He said results of the investigation into the accident involving 2 L-39 training jets was ongoing. Ukrainian officials note that were it not for the war, many of their country's aging Soviet-era planes would not be forced to fly. In his conversation with us last August, Juice spoke of the extraordinary danger fighter pilots like himself face in their antiquated aircraft.
It's very dangerous for us because Russians have the great advantage in technologies and in quantity. They have much better missiles. They could shoot you from much larger distances.
Juice told us of missions in which one Ukrainian jet acts as a decoy to attract Russian missiles.
It's too dangerous.
That sounds like a suicide mission.
Almost. Of course, we are maneuvering, so we are just trying to create some tricks against them.
A Ukrainian Air Force spokesman said Juice dreamed of F-16s in the Ukrainian sky. That reality is now just over the horizon, with the country now expecting to end up with as many as 120 F-16s, and the first of them to be flying missions early next year. Juice said U.S. pilots gave him his call sign during training before the war because he didn't drink alcohol. He spoke excellent English, presumably making him a strong candidate to be among those trained to fly the F-16s. His girlfriend posted a photo of the 2 of them and his patch under the caption, "Forever." Following a tradition in the fighter pilot community around the world, Juice's fellow airmen of the 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade wrote Juice's call sign and those of his 2 fellow pilots who perished on a piano. It was set alight in their honor. Jason Bellini, Scripps News.
8 U.S. Marines are still in a hospital after an aircraft crash left 3 other service members dead in Australia. Officials haven't released their conditions, but we do know the first 5 Marines to arrive at the hospital had critical injuries. The aircraft was carrying 23 Marines when it crashed yesterday morning during a training exercise. Investigators will remain at the crash site for at least 10 days to determine the cause. Tomorrow, Gold Star families who lost loved ones during the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan will be meeting in Washington, D.C. to mark 2 years since the fall of Kabul. 13 service members were killed in a bombing at the Kabul airport. Deputy Political Director Joe St. George takes a closer look at how the political debate about leaving Afghanistan is still raising questions and invoking pain for families who made the ultimate sacrifice.
The end of August and beginning of September conjures up different emotions for different people. But for some Gold Star families who lost loved ones during the fall of Afghanistan now 2 years ago, this time of year will always be marked with some pain and some sadness and questions for those who were in charge.
I said, Mom, Ryan's dead.
2 years have passed, but it isn't any easier for Paula Knaus Self to talk about the death of her son, Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Christian Knaus. This is the final message he sent her on Snapchat this past Saturday, marking 2 years since he was killed in a bombing in Afghanistan as the U.S. withdrew troops after a nearly 20-year presence. Knaus was one of 13 American service members killed in what is now known as the Abbey Gate bombing.
I couldn't believe that Ron was gone.
Since that time, Self has turned grief into action, which will be on full display this week in Washington as other Gold Star families who lost loved ones during the U.S. withdrawal will participate in a Tuesday roundtable on Capitol Hill, not only to mark 2 years, but also to bring attention to what happened.
Who is going to be taking responsibility for the loss of lives and that debacle? Is it just the military that's to be blamed? Or was it because of political decisions?
The event occurring as Republicans on Capitol Hill continue their investigation into what happened. Within the last month, the State Department turning over to Congress around 300 related documents. Meanwhile, a separate bipartisan Afghanistan War Commission continues its multi-year look into the conflict. The White House earlier this year posting a 12-page review about the Afghanistan withdrawal on its website, in which it placed some blame on the Trump administration for allowing the Taliban to become so organized. The White House writing, "We continue to mourn the loss of the 13 heroes and vow to continue to support their families." The question of how Americans lost their lives isn't the only political debate happening 2 years later. There remains frustration by some that the U.S. isn't issuing more visas to help more citizens of Afghanistan now trapped under Taliban rule. As for Self, she just hopes this issue is on the minds of voters this election.
Who's going to take responsibility for causing such chaos?
Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says his chamber may launch an impeachment inquiry of President Biden once it returns from recess. Some House Republicans claim the president is involved in claims of financial misconduct connected to his son Hunter, but none of that evidence has surfaced. And even if the House voted for impeachment, it would likely be dead on arrival in the Senate, where Democrats hold a majority. Coming up next, finding a company's customer service number can be tough these days, but you might want to think twice before you turn to Google. After a quick break, we're going to share one woman's warning.
How about saving $100,000 on your mortgage by raising your credit score by just 40 points? I'm investigator Joe Ducey with 3 ways to do that.
And a reminder right here, you can always find our stories and much more online. Feel free to check us out at scripsnews.com. Also on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. We'll be right back.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey, your dad and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No, there's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-293-5789 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-293-5789 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-293-5789. That's 800-293-5789. 800-293-5789.
Carvana has hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews and counting.
To be honest, I thought it was almost too smooth. Financing, every step. There were no surprises. Well, my monthly payment did come out lower than expected. Financing my car with Carvana was super smooth.
Finance your next car with Carvana today.
The Omaha Steaks Anniversary Sale is here. For over a century, we've guaranteed the highest quality in everything we offer. To celebrate, we're offering you 50% off site-wide. That means you'll save 50% and get our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. Never tried Omaha Steaks? Save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
Do you have an idea for a story you would like to see or a comment on our coverage you want to share? We want to hear from you. Call our Scripps News viewer hotline at 833-4-SCRIPPS. That's 833-4-SCRIPPS.
Rite Aid stock plunged earlier today after a Wall Street Journal report said that the company could be filing for bankruptcy within a few weeks. A bankruptcy declaration would stop opioid-related lawsuits against the pharmacy company. The Justice Department cited Rite Aid for filling hundreds of thousands of illegal prescriptions between 2014 and 2018. Mortgage rates just hit their highest point since 2000. While all rates are high right now, buyers with better credit scores are saving a lot more money. Joe Ducey with Scripps News Phoenix shares the 3 most important ways that you can raise your credit score.
Using myfico.com's calculator, on this day, a 30-year fixed $400,000 mortgage with a credit score of 620 to 639 will get you an 8.9% interest rate. But raise that score just 40 points, and at 7.9%, that rate saves you more than $100,000 over the life of the loan. Same thing with a car. Looking at a 4-year, $25,000 loan. A 630 credit score gets you a 15.4% interest rate. Raise that score 40 points, you're looking at 6.7%, saving you more than $100 a month. That's $5,000 you'd save on that car. So you know the impact of having a better credit score. How do you make that happen? Well, the 3 biggest factors in making that score are payment history, amounts owed, and account history. Payment history is most important, 35% of the credit score. 30 days late can take up to 100 points off your score. If you're late, contact your creditor. If it's rare, NerdWallet says you could send a goodwill letter explaining a mistake and asking it not to be reported. If your non-payment is more serious, try working out a payment plan. Amounts owed makes up 30% of your score. Try using less than 25% of your credit limit with every account. The less used, the better. Choose smaller balances on several accounts instead of a large balance on one. And consider asking for higher credit limits. And 15% of that score comes from your account histories. Older accounts help you here, accounts with a longer history of on-time payments. So if you're closing accounts, consider keeping older accounts open even if you're not using them consistently. Now, if you can't get a typical credit card, a secured credit card does help build credit by putting down a cash deposit and then charging against that. Also, check your credit report for any errors and then correct them.
And that was Joe Ducey reporting there for us from Phoenix, Arizona. So Dollar Tree has announced new changes to combat rising shrink or loss of inventory due to theft or other reasons. The company is planning to move some items behind the checkout stand or just lock them up during the second half of the year. And it's also going to discontinue merchandise that has a low demand. Dollar Tree says that theft has been driving inventory and profit losses. Walmart and CVS are among other stores that have implemented these types of changes. And there is a rise of scammers trying to steal your information by posing as customer service representatives. Consumer reporter John Matarese shares the warning signs that you need to look out for.
Reaching out to customer service can be a huge challenge these days since many companies no longer list phone numbers. But here's the thing, calling a customer service number you find on Google may not be a number that you can trust.
Sylvia Phillips has been cleaning up her home this summer and posted a few items to sell on Facebook Marketplace. That's when the scam started.
Got an immediate reply from a lady who said, is it still available? Yes, it is.
The so-called buyer told her to download a Google voice code to verify her identity. She did and immediately suspected a scam.
At this point, I'm like, oh my God, what have I done?
So she decides to call Facebook customer service for help.
So I Googled numbers for customer service and several came up.
She got a helpful agent who told her to download an app and he would check to see what was going on. But that was scam number 2.
And I see any customer service numbers for Facebook are all scams. You can only contact Facebook online.
We know that criminals are placing fake customer service phone numbers online.
Amy Knopfziger with the AARP Fraud Watch Network says searching for a phone number anywhere other than a company's website could lead to trouble, such as lookalike websites and fake numbers. Instead, follow the prompts for getting help. The company may offer a live chat or company email.
Oftentimes, when people are trying to circumvent to get a secret backdoor, that's when they find the criminal.
If you're on the phone with a helpline, hang up if the representative pressures you to give up personal information like a PIN or asks for gift cards or payment via Zelle or Venmo. Sylvia has now changed all her passwords and put a fraud alert on her accounts.
You can't take anyone at face value anymore.
And don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese.
President Biden is planning to ask Congress for more money to develop a COVID vaccine. There's already an updated vaccine in the works that also targets the Omicron subvariant XBB.1.5. Officials are hoping that new shot will be available to the public this fall. The chances of Congress approving the president's request are still unclear. Last fall, Congress didn't pass the administration's more than $9 billion package to combat the virus. And a new study out shows that mental health care visits increased significantly during the pandemic. The study was published in JAMA Health Forum, and it looked at insurance claims filed between March 2020 and August 2022. Researchers found mental health visits increased by 39%, and the use of telehealth increased tenfold. 78% of the visits were for anxiety and depression. Researchers say they believe teletherapy helped lower barriers to mental health access, and they also note teletherapy visits have continued at that increased rate since the pandemic came to an end. The FDA recalling 2 eye drop brands due to potential bacterial or fungal contamination. The agency is saying that you need to stop using Dr. Burns' MSM drops, 5% solution. Also, Light Eye's MSM eye drops. Contaminated drops could cause minor to life-threatening eye infections. So far, federal regulators have not reported any cases connected to either product. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, the record-breaking performance that further solidifies why an American gymnast is widely dubbed the GOAT. Also, a national park ranger addressing the lack of tributes to the women who came before her.
Out of 316 parks, I believe at the time, 3 focused on women.
We're going to show you how she's been sharing their stories across the country next.
Nothing is more important than family. A family you're born into, a family you choose, or a family you make. I'm Padma Lakshmi. I came to this country when I was 4 years old with my mother. We came here because it was a land of opportunity. But for many, that's not the case.
Porque primero me separaron de mi mamá y de ahí de mi hermano.
Immigrant families are being separated. Black and brown families are torn apart by a broken legal system. LGBTQ people suffer discrimination in adoption and healthcare. The need to protect and defend the civil liberties we all hold dear is more urgent than ever because families belong together. You can help by joining the American Civil Liberties Union today.
Call or go online now and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty. All it takes is just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day.
The ACLU has fought to allow LGBTQ couples to marry, for racial justice, to stop family separation. We can't do this work without you. Together, we can defend our democracy, ensure liberty and justice for all, and keep families strong.
So please, call the ACLU now or go to myaclu.org. When you use your credit card, you'll receive this special member kit to show you're part of a movement to defend free speech, protect our civil liberties, and keep families together.
I hope you'll join me in supporting the ACLU today, because we, the people, means all of us.
Call or go online to myaclu.org to become a Guardian of Liberty today.
This stuff is a miracle. It took us 60 prototypes. Wow. When we made this stuff, it grew into the #1 dermatologist recommended sweat brand for all over the body. When people say this is the first thing I've tried that stopped my sweat, that makes my day. We have a sweat quiz that'll customize the products for you based on where you sweat, based on how much you sweat. Free shipping, money back guarantee. There's really no risk to giving it a try. If you had a sweaty face or sweaty underarms or sweaty hands, that's really why we made Carpe.
Avoid expensive treatments, injections, and prescriptions. Your total body sweat solution is available at mycarpe.com.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. What? I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app.
What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
For over 100 years, this light has shined. A beacon of the free American press.
Reporting from Ukraine, Scripps News.
And now, this light shines even brighter. Scripps News.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. We'd like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. So today marks 60 years since the March on Washington, and it's considered one of the greatest racial justice demonstrations in U.S. history. It sparked the passage of landmark civil rights and voting rights legislation. And it's also where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his most iconic speech. Over the weekend, thousands of people gathered at the National Mall to commemorate the historic day. Saturday's event featured dozens of speakers who highlighted the inequalities the nation is still facing. Afterward, the crowd marched to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Now, to mark the anniversary, President Biden and Vice President Harris are set to meet with the King family and a broad group of civil rights leaders today at the White House. A National Park Ranger's determination is preserving an important piece of American history. Greg McQuaid with Scripps News Richmond introduces us to a woman who overcame all odds to honor the trailblazing women who came before her.
I got the job, and it was my dream job, absolute dream job.
When Judy Hart accepted her position as a ranger for the National Park Service, she was practically standing on an island alone.
And there's a whole history of the Park Service resisting women rangers.
The native of Kansas, who was breaking glass ceilings in the 1970s, recognized there was something lacking in America.
Out of 316 parks, I believe at the time, 3 focused on women. And I thought 3 out of 316 isn't cutting it.
So the newly minted ranger floated an idea by her bosses.
I said, I want to suggest we have another park on women's history.
Seneca Falls, New York was selected as the perfect place.
And I looked at it and I said, I don't care. We can turn this into a national park. I don't know how, but I don't care.
In 1848, the town in upstate New York was the site of the first women's rights convention led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Elizabeth Cady Stanton was a firebrand, absolute firebrand.
At the 2-day convention, Miss Stanton and organizers demanded equal rights, including the right to vote.
So the idea of calling a convention was outrageous, totally outrageous. 300 people showed up. Nobody expected that.
For Judy, making her dream a reality was far easier on paper.
It was a good idea that needed to happen.
She was made superintendent of the park and given a budget of only $60,000, which included her salary.
I wanted to do something positive. I wanted to create things that were good.
There were naysayers and obstacles at every turn, but Judy was intent on honoring the trailblazing women who came before her.
I was driven, especially once I moved out there. I was like, well, I only have a choice. I make this happen and make it a success. I'm certainly not going to give up now.
It took 5 years and literally an act of Congress. Finally, in 1982, the landmark opened with much fanfare, including an appearance by actor Alan Alda.
Ended up being called the Women's Rights National Historical Park.
The park includes Miss Stanton's preserved homestead.
This was the Stanton house when I got there in '78.
Visitors can also enter the rebuilt Wesleyan Chapel where the groundbreaking convention took place 175 years ago.
There were so many times it could have not happened. Shouldn't have happened.
4 decades after the park opened, Judy, who lives at Lakewood Retirement Center, beams thinking of the milestone she helped reach.
I really wanted to share with people, dream big and believe in it.
For the last 7 years, Judy has been working on a book detailing her journey in the park's creation.
Not only does it mean a lot to women, but the story of how it came to be is also important.
Much like her female predecessors honored at the site, Judy Hart has been overcoming tall hurdles.
And I have an expanded feeling that, yeah, this was all worth it. It was all worth it.
But this former park ranger says the victories make the view from the top more satisfying.
Easily the biggest thing I ever did in my life, and it means the world to me.
For I Have a Story.
I was so proud of wearing that uniform because it meant I was a ranger.
I'm Greg McQuaid for Scripps News.
Wow, good for her. All right, before we go today, I want to tell you about 7-time Olympic medalist Simone Biles, who is serving notice to her rivals that she is back. Biles didn't just win the all-around competition at the U.S. Gymnastics Championships in San Jose, California last weekend. She absolutely crushed it. Watch this. Biles finishing 5 points ahead of the runner-up to win the 8th U.S. title of her career. It is a record. Biles famously pulled out of the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo after having a case of the twisties. She couldn't connect her mind to her body while in midair. Now at age 26, she's a clear favorite. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll see you back here at 3 p.m. Eastern.